Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be going over my personal top 10 favorite Marvel Legends of 2023. And it is in the name, my personal favorites. It may not be your top 10. And I completely understand that because this boils down to basically the figures that Marvel Legends have dropped this year that have just put the biggest smile on my face. And that's what it's all about. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know, what are your personal top 10 Marvel Legends of the year? Because I'd love to see that as well. But without any further ado, we're going to get right into the top 10 that, some of these do have their drawbacks. Some of these I understand why you might not like them. But once again, these are just the top 10 figures that make me happy and that I'm glad I picked up. So let's jump right in. All right, so in at number 10, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales. And I know this is a very, very simplistic figure, but ultimately what it breaks down to is that I just love this figure. I love the style and the design. I love the animated look. I love the pop of blue. It just really stands out to me. And is this the best figure in the world? No. Is this even the best Miles Morales figure that we have in Marvel Legends? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Certainly not the best Miles Morales figure that's ever been created by one particular company or another. But, for the price point of 25 bucks, it's just really hard to beat. Look, he's not the greatest articulated figure in the world, but he just looks good. He pops to me. I mean, look at the red and the black and the blue and the big eyes. It just really makes me smile, and ultimately that is what it comes down to, and that is why I love this figure. All right, so in at number 9, we have classic Star-Lord. We're talking late 70s, early 80s, as written by the greatest comic book writer of all time, Chris Claremont. Yes, that version of Star-Lord. In fact, I don't even collect comic books anymore, but I still have some of the old Marvel Premiere and Marvel Spotlight comics, which were the early debuts of Star-Lord as a character. I love this guy. I've always loved him. He's basically a kind of Flash Gordon / space pirate kind of guy, and he was just always a character that just connected with me. I always liked him when I was a kid, and in fact, I like this older version of Star-Lord, not just the look of him, but just as a character than I do all the new stuff we've gotten here in the last 20 years or so. This is my version of Star-Lord, and while it is not a perfect figure, because let's be honest, really nothing is, but it's just a great representation of the character, and as simplistic as it is, it works wonderfully for this particular character. All right, so in at number 8, we have what is probably, I would say, arguably, the least good figure on this list. And to be honest, it's less about the figure itself and more about the character for me, because this is Toby Maguire's Spider-Man. And yes, I know all the complaints about this figure. The articulation is off, the colors are too bright, the face sculpt doesn't look right. I get it, and I agree, pretty much across the board. But that doesn't change the fact that I still love having a modern version of this Spider-Man, which, let's be honest, was the first live-action Spider-Man that most of us remember. I mean, yeah, there was an older 70s TV show that I did watch as a kid, but for me, Sam Raimi's Tobey Maguire trilogy was kind of the pinnacle of Spider-Man for a really long time, and honestly, still is. And while this figure is, well, not the perfect figure, it's still something I absolutely love having in my collection. So in at number 7, we have Green Goblin, the live-action Willem Dafoe version of Green Goblin, as most recently seen, of course, in Spider-Man No Way Home. And he was fantastic in that movie, and I loved the costume design. It was, of course, just an extension of his original costume, but it just looked really great. And I gotta be honest, this toy is fantastic. I mean, to be honest, had I had a little bit more time with this toy, it might have made its way higher on this list, but to be honest, I just got this thing in on a pre-order about 3 days before I am making this video. Otherwise, like I said, he may not be at number 7, he may be considerably higher up. Either way, as soon as he came in and I opened the package, I knew he absolutely was going to be one of the top 10 figures of the year. It's phenomenally done. Not just the figure itself, but also the glider and just about everything about it. Now, it does have a couple of downsides. There's no doubt about that. Mainly just articulation in the lower legs and the feet, which can make it a little bit of a pain to get him on his glider the way you want him to. But other than that, it's just such a fantastic figure that there's just no two ways about it. It is one of the best figures from Marvel Legends of the year, hands down. And then, of course, the fact that you can basically get him back into his original Toby, Maguire, Sam Raimi trilogy look, I mean, that's worth it right then and there, which, of course, is how I'm going to have him displayed again. Fantastic figure, highly recommended, and definitely worthy to be in this top 10. So in at number 6, we have Ultimate Captain America. And I'm a huge fan of the Ultimate comics, that whole run, whether it be the Ultimates, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. I loved all of it. But as a huge Captain America fan, I also loved this kind of more, well, let's be honest, much more of an asshole version of Captain America. I mean, this was not the Steve Rogers most of us grew up with, but even more than that was he had a really good character design, a little bit more practical, much more militaristic, and I think that came across really, really well in this figure. I think they did a fantastic job. Really, the only downside to this particular figure is that diaphragm joint there in the torso doesn't allow for as much movement as I would like. And most of you, if you have this figure, you know what I'm talking about. But still, the sculpt, the paint, everything else on it is done so well that honestly, I'm kind of willing to overlook that one point of articulation that ain't great, because other than that, it's damn near a perfect figure, and I absolutely love it. All right, so in at number 5, we have Doctor Doom, specifically the Secret Wars version of Doctor Doom. Look, when I first started reading comics back in the mid-1980s, it actually happened to be right when Secret Wars was coming out. So this is legitimately my first look at Doctor Doom. This is what he looked like the first time I ever saw him in a comic book at about the age of 8 years old. And this look has always stuck with me. And then a couple years later, I had the original Secret Wars Doctor Doom figure that, of course, again, had this look. And look, I know the complaints on this thing. Oh, they just reused Iron Man's arms and legs. But let's be honest, that's what he looked like in the comics. And there was always something about this look for him, as far as I was concerned, where, you know, you kind of shed the kind of regal look and he looked like more of a threat. He looked like a greater menace. He looked a little more badass in this outfit. So this look has always stuck with me, and I've been waiting for a really long time to get a Marvel Legends version of this. And yes, I did have to buy the 2-pack and suffer through that kind of pitiful version of Captain Marvel that we got with this figure, but to me it was all worth it, because this figure, hands down, is one that I absolutely love. All right, so at number 4, we have the new, updated, amazing, awesome, damn near perfect Bucky Captain America. Bucky Cap, come on. This thing has been a long time coming. That original Bucky Cap, which, by the way, I still love, still sits on my shelf in a place of honor, but damn is that thing old, and my God has that buck been reused 100 times, and it was time for it to go, period, end of story. And this was a phenomenal replacement for it. In fact, the only complaint I have about this figure is that he is too tall. I mean, that's really all it is because he's actually, if you compare him to any of the other Captain Americas out there, played by Steve Rogers, he's actually taller than most of the other Steve Rogers figures, and he shouldn't be. I mean, honestly, Bucky should be a little bit shorter than that. But other than that, the figure is beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted, and just a perfect representation of the character. Hands down, one of my favorite figures of the year. And in at number 3, we have, what is this? In-suit Spider-Man? Final Swing Spider-Man? I don't even know what it's called. It's just kind of called Spider-Man from No Way Home on the package, but it's referred to as a couple of different things. And my God, just look at it, okay? This is just a beautiful representation of Spider-Man. I don't even care about it being an MCU Spider-Man. Look at those colors. Look at the way it pops. It looks like a perfect comic book representation of Spider-Man, all the way down to the kind of Steve Ditko-esque eyes and mask. It's just gorgeous. This is a gorgeous figure. And yes, it also is a figure, much like several other Spider-Man figures that came out this year, that does suffer from poor articulation for a Spider-Man figure. Now, not poor articulation for a Marvel Legend, but certainly for a Spider-Man figure, it is lacking with calf joints and foot articulation, maybe some toe articulation. There are definitely things this figure could have done better, but it is just so beautiful to look at as just, again, not even a beautiful MCU version of Spider-Man, but just a beautiful comic book representation of Spider-Man. I just love it. I can't help it. I am being fully honest that I am completely biased here. I am completely overlooking all the downsides in the articulation to this figure because the paint and sculpt look so perfect for the Spider-Man that I know and love. All right, now in at number 2 is the Marvel Legend that I think ended up number 1 on a lot of people's list, and I think for very, very good reason. It may, in fact, be, from a design and technical standpoint, the best Marvel Legends figure that has ever been created. Period. End of story. The way they did this figure, first of all, the sculpt is gorgeous and looks great. The paint, while there's not a lot of it, looks good and is on point, but it is the engineering for the 6 arms that make this, in my opinion, a perfect Marvel Legends, a perfect action figure. It has every single thing you could possibly want in a Marvel Legend, but yet even more because it's spiral, 6 arms, tons of swords, all the sculpt, all the articulation. It is just perfect. And we know that Hasbro's tried to do 6-arm characters before. We all remember the couple times they've tried to do it with the Spider-Man figures, and it was not good at all. But this time, oh my God, did they make this figure perfect. And again, from a technical standpoint, it is probably the best Marvel Legends we've gotten in a long time. Certainly the best Marvel Legends we have gotten in 2023, just not my personal favorite. And in at number 1, we have, as played by Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man. And yes, I know all the complaints. In fact, I just gave all the complaints in the last Spider-Man figure I did, because it all comes down to articulation. For a Spider-Man figure, it is lacking in articulation, specifically in the feet and lower legs, and it ain't great. And I'll be honest with you, I get it completely, 100%, but damn, just look at the sculpt on this dude, okay? It is gorgeous. This is a perfectly sculpted figure for a Spider-Man, specifically an Andrew Garfield live-action Spider-Man. And on top of that, just look at it. It could completely fit in your collection as a comic book version of Spider-Man. It's an absolutely gorgeous looking figure, even though it really is lacking in some key articulation points for a Spider-Man figure. But again, I am willing to completely overlook it because of how much I love the way this figure looks. I mean, that's just basically what it comes down to. I love the look of this figure. I love seeing what he looks like on my shelf with my other Spider-Man figures, and hands down, this is the figure that has given me the most joy this year out of Marvel Legends, the figure that has put the biggest smile on my face, and hands down, it is my number 1 favorite. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my personal top 10 Marvel Legends of 2023. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't, let me know why. Which of these figures do you absolutely hate? Which of these figures do you completely disagree with me on? Let me know in the comment section down below. And like I said at the beginning of the video, put your top 10 in there. Or better yet, make a video and let me know, because I would absolutely love to watch it. So that is it, guys. As always, thank you for watching. And always remember to enjoy your collection.